Hi, I'm Mark McPherson. Welcome to one of my longer videos. This video is all about a technique I call ANATOMICAL. It's an acronym. Every letter stands for a particular strategy. So it itself is a strategy, if you like, and it's composed of other strategies, sub-strategies if you prefer. So it's a particularly useful technique in two different topics: how to deal with difficult people and how to master tough conversations. Not every strategy in dealing with difficult people requires you to actually say something. Sometimes you can change the physical environment or policies and procedures and change someone's behaviour to better deal with them. But this particular strategy, anatomical, fits into both of those topics. Now, when it comes to dealing with difficult people, I've devised a set of practical, realistic, down-to-earth strategies you can immediately use. And I've put them into 7 groups for convenience. Make safety your priority. Leave them to it. Say what needs to be said and leave it at that. Help them learn how to behave. Manage the influences on their behaviour. Tell them their behaviour is unacceptable. Give a penalty for poor behaviour. Now, anatomical fits into this particular group. Number 3, say what needs to be said and leave it at that. There are times when you need to deal with somebody quickly, you persevere, you continue along because you want to help the person as soon as possible, deal with them and end the conversation. But it's one way of dealing with a difficult person is to simply forge ahead with what needs to be done. Because sometimes we need to give someone information, get them to make a decision, or get them to give us information, but they are being difficult, poorly behaved. What might the person be doing to put them into that category? Well, talks all over you, doesn't listen, doesn't answer, or takes you down a side track, or keeps wanting you to do something for them. Maybe it's a demanding customer. You've told them several times, I can't do this, I can't do that. I want you to do this. Will you do this? I want to see the manager or whatever happens to be. And sometimes you've told them, look, I'm unable to do that right now, but I can help you in another way. Maybe it's a colleague, maybe even a neighbour. Or in some cases, they're simply directly rude to you. But rather than tell them their behaviour is unacceptable or give them a penalty, you simply want to forge ahead and say what needs to be said and leave it at that. So, anatomical, it's an acronym. Every letter stands for something. It's a personal conversation script, if you like. I've written lots of these there for you to use the way you see fit. It's a collection of strategies in this case, and you can use them if and when you want to. I'm not saying you have to do every one of the strategies in anatomical. It's up to you. And you can use one or more of them in any order. You can start here if you like. You might start here and you might go over there and then you might come back to something else. It really is up to you. So it's a convenient way of giving you these strategies rather than just give them to you in a lump. I've put them into this particular acronym, anatomical. It helps me remember, and hopefully it helps you remember as well. So please take note of the strategies, each one of them, but tailor them to fit your particular needs and circumstances. And let's go one further, personalise them to fit your particular way of doing things. The way I speak and do things is not the way you speak and do things. So take note of them, learn them, use them if and when you want to, tailor them to fit your needs and personalise them to fit you and your way of doing things. A very quick look. A is for attention, N is name, A, acknowledge, T, tell them what you want and what you will do and what you won't do. O is for options, M is for messages, I is for information, C is for cut. We'll talk about exactly what these mean a little bit later. A is for action and L is for leave. So let's have a look. The first A, It's all about getting their attention. You need to get their attention. You're on the front desk, Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones, and look where I've got my hand. It's not here. It's not like that, or whatever it happens to be. It just says, hey, I've got something to say. So be careful about these hand movements. Get their attention. Your teenage son, Robert, I've got something important to say. Please listen. Get their attention. Now, having said that, there are times in some of these conversations you need to simply forge ahead. If they're not going to listen, fine, you need to say what you need to say. N. It's all about using their name. Using their name can be really helpful, can be respectful. Be careful about using it too much. I've been on the receiving end of someone saying something like, Mark, I fully understand, Mark. Mark, that's a really good idea. What do you think we should do now, Mark? I fully understand, Mark. It can be overused, so be a bit careful. People can be quite sensitive if you keep using their name too much, but use it appropriately. A. Acknowledge. Now, acknowledge their efforts, not just their achievements. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in today. I can see that you've made an effort. That's terrific. Thank you so much for filling out the forms. They may not be filled out correctly or thoroughly, but giving people some acknowledgement in these times when you're having a tough conversation with someone because it's tough work or they're a little bit difficult. It can be useful to acknowledge their efforts. The T, it's all about telling. Tell them what you can or will do and what you can't or won't do. It's so much better telling them at the beginning than getting halfway through a conversation and say, oh no, I can't do that. Tell them right at the beginning, today I will be able to. What I can do today is such and such, but I will not be able to guarantee whatever it happens to be. Sometimes people are very, very happy knowing what are the boundaries, if you like. O, give people options. You don't always have to do this. As I said, you pick and choose what parts of anatomical you need to use. But giving people options can be extremely useful. You can take the form away with you and fill it in and come back tomorrow. You can stay here and fill it in if you like. Or you can go online on the website, and I'll give you the details for that and how to do it, and you can fill it out in there. You have 3 options. Which one of those would you like? Oh, I'd like you to fill it out for me. No, I'm unable to do that. It really is only these 3 options. M. There are times in these conversations dealing with someone who's a bit difficult where you just simply want to get through the work. Little messages can be important to pop in every now and then. Little messages like, oh, I can see you're upset. That's it. You're not saying they have a right to be upset. You're not saying that you've done something wrong. But little messages can be useful. I appreciate your cooperation. It's very important you make a decision now. If you've given them options and they're not making a decision, remind them. It's very important you need to make a decision now. I really do need you to tell me whatever it happens to be. So little messages all the way through can be extremely useful. Now, the big one perhaps. You might need to give information. You've got their attention, you've used their name, you've told them what you can and can't do. There might not be any options here. It might be simply a case of you telling them what you need to tell them. So give them whatever information you need to give them, or perhaps ask the question you need them to answer. So it's an opportunity to give that information. As I said, it's not in a particular order. This is just a helpful way of remembering some of the things you might need to do when you're in that group of strategies where you need to tell the person what you need to tell them and leave it at that and move on. C, I call it cutting the blah. It's very easy in these conversations to talk too much. When you're giving a little message about thank you for coming in today, you end up having a conversation about the weather or whatever it happens to be. Cut it. When someone is being a little difficult, you need to have this tough conversation because it's tough going. You need to deal with someone who's difficult. You want to help them out, serve them if they're a customer, and move on to the next customer because I'm sure you've got plenty of them. cut the blah. Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that. Oh, I really, I'm so sorry it came to this, or whatever it happens to be. Sometimes that can destroy the good work you've done by clouding it with all these other bits of information. So what I call cut the blah. Now, the A is for action. Quite often at the end of these sorts of conversations, it's important to review or to make sure they understand exactly what action they will need to take next and what you will take. So what you're going to do, Mr. Jones, is you're going to leave here now with the form and you're going to come back with it tomorrow. That's terrific. In the meantime, I will look out for you tomorrow, and when I see you come in, I'll make sure I deal with you promptly, or whatever it happens to be. People need to know the next steps. There's nothing worse than someone going away from one of these conversations saying, oh, I don't know what I have to do. Because if they don't know, they probably won't do it. L, we're up to the last letter in anatomical, and it stands for leave. At some stage, you need to finish this conversation. It needs to be ended. So leave the conversation once it's gone as far as it needs to, or is appropriate. I like little scripts. So although anatomical is a personal conversation script, it's a strategy. Within it are lots of other little strategies, sub-strategies, whatever you want to call them. But leave. I think you need your own personal conversation script. Sometimes some organisations give them to you. Thank you. It looks like we have finished dealt with the issue and finalised the issue that you came in with. Is there anything else I need to help you with today? Is there anything else I can help you with today? So you need to leave the conversation once it's gone as far as it can and is appropriate. Sometimes it's good to have your own little scripts. So my apologies there, I've jumped forward. Now note that in everything I've said, there's a verbal component, words that might come out your mouth. There's a vocal component, how you sound. And there's a visual component, and I've written 11 essential visual communication skills. Because when you give those options, you don't just simply mention them, or yeah, you could. If you can actually give some sort of visual communication, some sort of visual way of demarcating the three. I have three things to tell you. The first thing is all of these little extra things you can do can really help you when you are dealing with someone, anyone at all, but in particular someone who's a little bit difficult. So we'll talk about those another time. If you need to get information from me, please contact me. But we need to combine the verbal, the vocal, and the visual communication codes when we're dealing with someone, because it increases the quality of our communication. So that was a pretty quick look at anatomical. A, attention. N, name. A, acknowledge. T, tell them what you will and won't do. O is options. M for messages. I, information. C, cut. A, action. L, leave. Hopefully you can remember what each one of those means. If not, review the video. Now, if you need to get in contact with me, there are a few ways you can do it. One of the best ways is here with LinkedIn. If you're not connected with me, please go ahead and send me a connection request. If you are connected, you can always send me a message. Now, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, please look after yourself, look after your friends and family, and I look forward to seeing you in the not too distant future. All the very best. Remember, anatomical is another strategy, personal conversation script you can have up your sleeve. All the very best.